Oh, I think it's time for a peer review, don't you? Welcome everyone, this is Laboratory Tech 13 here from the RIPTIDE Project Laboratory, and today we've got a quick rebuttal video to the professor's video about Magic the Gathering Arena. And the reason why we wanted to make this video is we want to just engage in a little conversation between YouTubers and just engage in general on Magic the Gathering Arena at large. Now, what I'll be doing is going through my notes here that I have from his video, where I'll go over some of the topics that he talked, his points in the video, and then I'll offer my thoughts on the subject and also rate his points as well. So that way you can understand how I feel about the subject, what may or may not have been left out of every different point that he made in his video, and get basically just my general thoughts on Magic the Gathering Arena as well. Now, you may know that I was in the Magic the Gathering Arena streamer event that happened on April 25th, and I want to just disclose the fact that, yes, even though Wizards of the Coast has given me access to those special events, my actual thoughts on Magic the Gathering Arena are not adulterated in any way. These are the actual thoughts I think about Magic the Gathering Arena. And I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time, so that way you don't think that I'm being paid off by Wizards of the Coast or anything else like that. These are my individual thoughts, and they come from no one else. So let's go ahead and go over some of the topics that he talked about in his rebuttal video, okay? The first couple points that he did included the software, client interface, and sensory overload. And this is all part of the game itself, basically all about the game. So he talked about how Arena had a better interface than Magic the Gathering Online, but does not critique parts of the game, in my opinion, where the mana will tap wrongly unless you guide it. There's not too much detail that goes into bugs and ways that the client crashes and things like that. So there's not too much basically critiquing about how the client itself needs a little bit more work. They're constantly pushing new patches to make things better, and sometimes breaking other things. And there's just not too much discussion on that in his video. So there could be more discussion about how if there are bugs, you need to submit them to the people so that they can fix that. And I just feel like maybe he hasn't exactly talked about that much. It's more really about his own personal experiences with the client, and I feel it's a little bit more subjective here than objective, but that's just my thoughts. The next point is sensory overload. Talks about how basically there's a lot of things going on in the game. There are a lot of sounds, a lot of voiceover lines, things like that. And basically wants to have an option to tone those down, which I am fully aboard. I definitely think there should be some sort of slider that allows people to reduce some of the sounds or the voiceover lines. That definitely should be introduced into the game. But also, I think he doesn't go into the other side, which is there are a lot of cool sounds and voiceovers that happen in the game that are kind of restrictive, meaning that you have to play the card to hear the sounds instead of being able to go into the card, listen to, say, Karn's voiceovers. And I feel like maybe that should be talked up a little bit more. The fact that if there are things you want to hear, that there's not enough access to them. And that's just a minor issue that I think he could also talk about later. And of course, me bringing it up helps other people know about it as well. So overall, what I would rate his point about the game itself, also, by the way, he writes it up on his video saying that it's an open beta, but it's actually still in closed beta. So a lot of people have been coming to me saying that the game is an open beta, and I've been basically having to tell them that, yes, the professor's wrong. The game's not an open beta. You can't go sign up and immediately get in, but I mean, you can still sign up to the game, but you're just not guaranteed. It's still a closed beta, and I really wish that he hadn't made that error, because being a leader of information on Magic the Gathering with his high subscriber count on YouTube, it falls to him to make sure that inaccuracies aren't within his videos. So my rating on his point is about a B. Great overview about what's going on. It can use more depth into the problems that the interface entails. Just basically that's what I feel on his points there. Now, for the actual game itself, like the way the game works, he talks about that only best of one is available, as well as rating the gameplay in the closed beta as kind of more irrelevant, as more sets will be open before open beta is live. I mean, more formats will come in time, so I really think that the critique about how there just isn't like Modern or Pauper or Eternal or any sort of extra extended format isn't available yet is kind of moot, really. It's basically just arguing for something that will go away. And I understand this falls in his previous part of his video where he says that this is rating the game as is and will change over time, but I still think it shouldn't be included at all, because it's basically saying that, well, yes, this is going to change over time, and I'm going to talk about this point because it's going to change over time. Like, it doesn't seem like it should be added to his video, and thus I think it should be removed from the concerns about Magic the Gathering Arena. So yeah, the biggest problem I have with this point is that there's too much development being done on actually getting the cards into the program. They're really trying their best to get full standard in there, and they're slowly doing it over time. And it's going to be kind of a work in progress, because they want to polish up those effects. They want to make sure the card interactions work right, even though that they have a program that allows them to have those card interactions work. There's just no consideration that there could be formats coming out or events that will restrict or give you random decks similar to Hearthstone, and I feel like he hasn't given too much thought to the fact that these formats could be available. It's pretty easy to talk about how certain things that you know for sure don't exist in Magic the Gathering Arena, but what about the things that the developers themselves could create? I mean, there could be totally new formats and events that come out that require you to have the cards that you currently own to play them. Which, you know, leads me into critiquing the ability to not play different formats is just kind of unfair, because the game's not feature complete. It's in closed beta. There's more things going to be added to the game. I feel like it's another knock onto the game that shouldn't be there. To build over time. And no, I fully agree that the professor's point will get updated over time to fix this issue that he has with the game, but I just still think it's a bit unfair at the moment, since we're not even in open beta or even in the release candidate of the game. So I feel like it's a little bit early for that type of critique. So my point here, my rating for his point for the game's, you know, the formats and stuff like that are a C. It's a decent argument, but the critique of Magic Arena's formats is entirely hinged upon it being in closed beta, so it's a little bit drawn out, as it were. Next, let's talk about the economy. Yes, he talked about the economy in his video, and I wrote a lot about this here. Pricing has been set up as a way to allow you to get cards and have gems left over to play events with the cards that you open. His big critique in the video talks about how the pricing scheme doesn't match up with the cards, and I feel like it's done in that way on purpose for you to have gems left over, and that's a big boon. You want to be able to get into the events right away and not say don't have any gold left over from basically like even starting the game to get into events. You don't want to have that bad feeling. And the events are quite cheap to get into, and you can continue to earn gold in that way. So in my opinion, it's clear to the player that Wizards wants players to be able to do more with their gems instead of just opening packs. I feel that that is why this is there. If you want to open packs explicitly, you can. The fact that you find it distasteful and find it predatory is merely on the surface. There's nothing in the game that urges the player to buy packs to continue. Getting at least 5 wins and doing the daily quests can keep you going for a long time, even infinite. I've actually done it on some of my streaming just even today, being able to play many constructed events over time. Wildcards will be gotten that'll help you focus and build your deck over time. There's more depth that needs to be researched on time versus money, Professor, which you gloss over very quickly, instead of banking on the reaction that there's no way to dust or trade cards, which would change this economy very drastically, even to the point where people could theoretically run multiple accounts and trade to each other if trading is implemented, making people immediately have the best decks and making the gameplay even more oppressive than it currently is. So, you know, if trading is implemented that way, it would be terrible. If dusting is implemented, there would be formats that players couldn't enter. This ties back into my gameplay previously, that because they don't have the cards required, making it a feel bad that the player hasn't saved up collections, which is a huge part of Magic the Gathering, is collecting the cards. So, to my score of his economy point, I'm going to have to give it an F. There's just not enough research on time versus money, and more time spent on the money being spent, and what feels like trying to urge outrage over paying for something in a game that is meant to make money just feels disingenuous. I'm not sure what's going on here. So my overall rebuttal to his video is basically this. Some more research needs to be done. It's a big sticking point that Wizards of the Coast themselves have introduced into the game, that they want to encourage players to play one of two ways. And I'm sure that there will be events for players who are free to play versus players who are paying with money. And that's it for my video today. So, stay watching, observers.